Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with Xavier Combe, who lives in France and is the writer and co-producer of the best animated film, The Games People Play. I think more people should recognize what you recognize in this film. I loved the film and I loved the different things that came out of it. So
Oh,
first of all,
thank you.
tell our audience a little bit about the film and why you chose to do it.
Games People Play is a film based on a short story, a very short story I wrote a few years ago, which won a prize at the Bath Flash Fiction Competition. And my partner in crime, Jim Hall, who does not live in Paris but in Indianapolis, is a filmmaker. And he said, "Well, let's make a film out of this. What do you think?" And I said, "Sure, give it a shot." So he made this animated film, and it's called Games People Play, which is a very ironic title.
Absolutely. All right. So people watching this film, what are you hoping that they take away from it?
There's a message in Games People Play. It's about the narrator boards the Paris metro. It's crowded, and he is standing next to a young man who is playing a war game on his telephone. Now, war game are two words that I think everybody would agree don't belong near each other. And that's basically what the film is about. The narrator puts an end to the virtual massacre that he sees before his eyes.
Wow. Yeah, and you definitely do that. So you talked about a little bit about how this all came up, but when you were doing it, was there anything interesting that came across for you? Any part of the thing that you found a little bit more difficult than you thought it would be?
Work with Jim Hall. What's very interesting is how complementary we are, because we do produce a podcast. Muffy Drake produces a podcast. It's called Je ne sais quoi. And by the way, we are honored to be recognized twice in the Tryon Festival, first for Games People Play, and then for our podcast, Je ne sais quoi. So it all starts with the podcast, basically. And Jim and I are very complementary. Jim, by the way, is a 22 Emmy Award and two-time Peabody Award recipient.
Oh, wow.
So he knows his stuff inside and out. And when he says, "I'll try to do an animated film," he comes up with something stupendous.
And very great job. Well, thank you for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you want to say?
Well, I'd like to point to the fact that Muffy Drake is available on Facebook, Instagram. We also have a site, muffydrake.com, and listen to the podcast. The podcast is about absurd fiction. It's pretty literary, absurd fiction, short stories.
Well, actually, since you brought that podcast up, let's just chat a little bit about that. It is definitely absurd. And where is it that you get your ideas about what you talk about?
Well, if you take games people play, for instance, it's a true story. It's a real life experience because I take the metro quite a lot in Paris. And also whenever, it's life situations that come up, and I sort of have this kind of weird state of mind, and I always see something absurd in in daily life, and I try to make the most of it with a comedic twist.
Oh,
And Jim provides the executive production in the same way.
well, I have to say that's what I took away from both your film and
Oh,
your
thank you.
podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it was very unique and very different, and I was listening intently. So thanks again for chatting with me, and I am Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.